familiar with even some more. Oh, and I'm sorry, Say Detroit. They're actually buying homes for people who are homeless or don't have, single mothers and things of that nature. They're buying, they're taking abandoned houses and rehabbing them, fixing them up, and giving them to single families who don't have a home or own a home. You can help volunteer with that. Their name is Say Detroit. So there's a multitude of different nonprofits that are doing great work. Those are just to name a few that I can think of right offhand.
Awesome. LaShawn, you want to add on to that? A couple of other ones that he maybe didn't mention?
Yeah, sure. So one that we work with really closely with the People's Action is Better Man Outreach, so BMO. And they work with young men in the community where they start off with becoming familiar with the young men through the game of basketball. So teaching them fundamentals. And then that eventually teaches them discipline. And then that teaches them, they bring in different people to talk about health and education. We've done a few sessions with them as well to talk about financial literacy, that type of thing. We'll be working closely with them this summer as well with some of our community service work that we're doing this summer. Some other great nonprofits are, so I think it's important for people to know about places like Crossroads. So my background, I did case management as well for about 10 years. And we would have people who are not able to afford to get your state ID. Like you may have your birth certificate, but the $10, $12 that it takes for you to pay for your ID. Crossroads will assist you with doing that. They offer food, so that's a great nonprofit. Teen Height works with our teenagers as well, teaches them about sexual education, teaches them self-esteem building, how to advocate for themselves. That's another great one. We have Travelers Aid Society. They work with non-documented citizens. So Cass Community Social Services does a lot of transitional housing in the city of Detroit. You can find most or more of these nonprofits at greatnonprofits.org. And you can find other ways to be able to support them, not just through financial means, but how do I show up? Are they offering volunteer opportunities, that type of thing?
Do you guys work with Detroit Wayne?
Detroit Wayne.
Detroit
Yep,
Wayne.
Detroit Wayne.
With the trainings and whatnot?
Okay. We do. Yeah.
What does Detroit Wayne do?
They do trainings for nonprofits and whatnot. There's so many things, like they even help with, they have like websites to help with like utility bills and whatnot, and they have case managers as well. And we work they do a lot of our trainings. For instance, like a month ago I had a whole week training where Detroit Wayne took over, and we were at a hotel and whatnot. So it's kind of like all under mental health and stuff like that.
Yeah. So we do, we use the health department a lot too for some of our trainings, cultural appropriateness, cultural competency, motivational interviewing, those type of things. Because we also, what we try to do as nonprofits is build our resources. Our most valuable resources are the people that are within the nonprofit. So we do that both with TPA as well as with Community Health Awareness Group. Every year with TPA, we try to have a retreat where we go somewhere fun. So it's part fun, but part of it is training. And, Vu is really big on, he's going to explain how your brain works and why sometimes you can focus and why sometimes you can't focus. So it's things that we never even thought about, but I love the aspect of the resources are the people, and we have to continue to cultivate them so that we can pour into the community.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I forgot to mention also Dream of Detroit. I don't know if y'all familiar with that. That's with Hazel. Great organization as well. They're doing a lot of work. They do a lot of volunteer work in the community. They revitalize neighborhoods on the west side of Detroit with housing development, economic development, and community organizing. So it's a great organization as well. So if you never heard of it, they can definitely check them out as well. Like I said, there's a lot. There's probably going to be some that are going to kick me if they see this, but those are just a few to name.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I thank you for sharing. And if there's any other ones you guys want to mention throughout the show, feel free to jump in and let us know. But you about to say something, Abby?
No, I was going to share a couple of nonprofits that I knew about.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to mention a nonprofit, Give to Gain, later on in the show because they are a sponsor of ours as well. But go ahead. Did you want to mention a couple more?
Yes. So there's one in particular, Zeman International. She was actually one of CNN heroes. What she created was a grocery store and clothing store for families to actually go in that don't have the money to actually purchase these items, and so there's not that embarrassment, so they can go in and pick whatever they want, like literally like it's a store, but everything in there is what they can take what they need. She also does culinary arts classes for women to help them learn a skill. She does like 3K runs. Like there's so much. I don't want to even go into that, but she's helping people here in Michigan and as well as all around the world. There's global charity teams that also help all backgrounds here, and it's very like it's very like what is it when it's like secretive, like they don't put nobody out there, like you can fill out the form and they get the help and no one needs to know. It's like it's literally for the people here in Hamtramck, Detroit area. And then you have some that are overseas. We have, hold on, I'm over here. I'm gonna forget too. It's really
No, it's okay. It's okay.
We have Promise Relief. It's a nonprofit organization helping the crisis in Yemen. And then we also have KBK Relief Foundation, which is another woman-driven foundation to help local families as well as countries around the world with water wells and getting people back on their feet. And hold on, one more that I want to mention. Oh, that's it for now. But yeah, if I remember some more, I will let you know.
And I guess it's a good time for me to mention Give to Gain, right? Give to Gain is a nonprofit organization, sponsors orphans in Yemen. 100% of all the donations goes to the less fortunate. People that are wondering why Yemen, it's the largest humanitarian crisis and aid operation. 5 million people are at risk of famine. 15 million people need water or sanitation support. If you want to donate to Give to Gain, their Venmo is at Give2Gain. Their Zelle is 313-445-8638. And their Cash App is the money symbol, Give2Gain. Shout out to Rico. Appreciate him for shedding light on that situation. So I guess my question to you all is, how can people support nonprofits? I mean, obviously, I know there's some easy answers as donating, but like, how can people support nonprofits? LaShawn, we can start off with you.
Okay. So we need sweat equity. We need bodies to show up. So if you hear about people that are doing great service and you're curious, and even if you're not able to commit a ton of time, show up every once in a while. People would appreciate that. Get added to the list to where you may not know about all of the resources or the nonprofits that are available, but just being on that listserv will be able to give you information that you need. Make sure that your kids or that your community is involved. Like this summer, we have a program called Adopt the Block, where we work in 2 different districts in the city of Detroit. We go into neighborhoods. We actually go door to door and knock on the doors and ask them different surveys that we've come up with to try to figure out what are some of the resources that they need in that community. We show up in the summertime. We bring all of the tools. So we're bringing lawnmowers, trash bags, rakes. We feed everybody and everything. But we knock on the door. We want you to be involved with the betterment of the community. We're bringing resources as well, financial literacy information, life insurance information, to where we want to leave something when we leave the community. We want to feed into and pour into. And it's not enough for us to show up and to do it. We need you to want to improve your community.
Right,
so
building habits.
Building habits. And all it takes, I promise, is for the young people to see 1 or 2 people come outside. And they're so excited. They want to help. Oh, let me grab a bag. But they have to see people coming out and doing it. And like I said, sweat equity. We need bodies. So if you're not able to financially donate or contribute, then show up. Would be my suggestion.
Sweat equity.
Sweat equity. That's a new one. I'm going to start using it. Sorry, LaShawn. I'm going to start using that one. Negus, what do you got for us? How can people support nonprofits, man?
I mean, it's pretty hard to come behind LaShawn, because LaShawn eloquently said everything that really is important. But I guess with my best capabilities, trying to add on to that, you got to look at each nonprofit and see what kind of nonprofit they are, depending on what your passion is, right? So let's take for instance someone like National Lawyers Guild. They would probably need donations, right? Because they already have the lawyers that's on there that's volunteers. So their big thing is to donate, right? But if you look at someone like the People's Action, we're an outreach program. We're grassroots, and we need both. But more importantly, sweat equity is essential because we need your volunteer, because our thing is about engagement, right? We're trying to engage the community. So the more bodies that come out, the larger our impact can be and the more effective and efficient we can get to reaching our goal, which is trying to engage the community and visibility, etc. So in many hands make light work. That's an old proverb. So that sweat equity is very key to some organizations like us. But those are two of the essential elements: donate and volunteering, giving us that sweat equity with many nonprofits, because it's so hard to find people to get involved. Now, here's the thing. One of the things that I know with volunteering is that a lot of people sometimes are nervous to come out, because usually they may admire nonprofits, from a distance, etc. But sometimes they may be a little bit timid in showing up. They may have some kind of reservations. And I'm telling you, nonprofits, we want you to come out, just showing up. Even if you come out for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that 30 minutes is crucial. You may say, well, I got to go to work at 8 o'clock. So, I got to go to work at noon. If I show up at 11, I'm only going to be for an hour. So there's no point in me showing up. No, show up. That hour is crucial. Every minute counts. Every second counts. So please, if you have the time, show up. Don't be nervous. We welcome you. Most nonprofits, we want you to show up and support. And the last thing you can do also, of course, is share our content. If you see nonprofits doing some good work, go on social media, share it, let other people know. That's another form of support. But the main support is absolutely volunteer.
You stole it. I was going to say, share the links and share the word. You stole it from me.
Well, that question was going to go to you. Yeah. So was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I think they covered that.
They covered everything?
Mm-hmm.
And when you say, for someone that's wondering, when you say like, just an hour is not a, people might think like, oh, it's not a big deal, I'm just not going to come. And you're saying, no, come. Like, why are you putting so much emphasis on that? Like, even if it is just 30 minutes and stuff like that.
Because every minute counts. Because when you show up for that 30 minutes, you can get a lot of things done in 30 minutes or even an hour. People don't realize that. Even sometimes with phone banking, because volunteer is so crucial. First of all, it's volunteer. Let's not confuse that. So volunteer work is so crucial, and it's so hard for nonprofits to get people to be engaged and to help. So any level of support and help is crucial. For instance, we have phone calls that we have to make to the community, right? So we may have, I think we got 1,500 calls left to get. You know how many phone calls you can make in an hour? You know how many, because some of those phone calls are not going to be disconnected. Some people are not going to answer. So you very well in an hour can get possibly 50 calls in, 40 calls. Now imagine if we get 10 people that come out that can donate an hour. You get 10 people that only come out for an hour and all of them make phone calls. We'll have the list almost done just by you giving an hour of your time. So even though if you are only coming out for an hour, if everybody has that mindset to come out and donate a 30 an hour, many hands make light work. So you can get a lot done in such little time if everybody commits 30 to 1 hour minutes of their time.
Do you agree with that, LaShawn? I see you nodding your head. And
I do.
Completely agree with it? Anything you want to add on to it or anything like that?
So no, like you said, many hands make for light work. So we have seen what we can do as a community. It's hard for one person to make change, but it's possible. But that one person can spark the light that for others to see. And then we just hope that people show up and continue to help us to brighten that light. Because there's only so much that one person can do.
Support is very important.
Absolutely.
And it's everybody's moral duty in a way to just be out there and helping. And so this is why we wanted to do this show, is we wanted to educate people like, there are things out there. Because I've had people come up to me and ask me, like, hey, man, how can I help in this situation? And sometimes I don't even know the answer. And so, therefore, I know there's a bunch of things out there. I know there is. It's just we are not great at finding it somehow, or with the resources and getting out and reaching out. So that's why I wanted to do this. But go ahead, Negus, what do you want to do?
I forgot one last thing.
Go ahead.
Reaffirmation. People coming out, your presence also is gratifying to us. So when you come out and you participate, you show up, that also makes the organizers and people at the nonprofit feel good as well. It's a spiritual thing as well. So by you showing up, coming out for 30 minutes to an hour, we get excited when we see new faces. So that is another component that I failed to mention that also is gratifying and is refreshing. So again, that 30 minutes or that hour, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't want to say this, but even if you show up for 20 minutes, if we know you tried and you showed up as an effort, that makes our day as well. So volunteering and showing up is so crucial to us. Y'all don't even understand. I mean, for those who are not in the nonprofit world, I mean, y'all have no idea. So hopefully that encourages somebody out there that's listening, understand how important their participation is.
I had a question. I don't know if you're gonna ask this question, but how many programs do you guys have?
So, is that to Vu or to me?
To anybody, guys, whatever.
I'll let you go, Vu.
I keep on looking at the screen when
I don't know which one.
Sorry.
I think there is better, right? That's
That's where you can see us looking at.
But
This way, I can see y'all. When y'all looking at TV, your backs are turned. So you.
Sorry.
I've been looking.
Okay.
You said the question was how many women are in the ward?
How many programs do we have?
Oh, how many programs do we have?
Yes.
Okay, so we have the Adopt a Block, which there's
Adopt a Block is a great one.
So Adopt a Block is our outreach program. That's the one we go to the neighborhood. We do the survey. We collect data. Then we have financial literacy that's within it. Then we do a business accountability where we reach out to different businesses and we talk about cultural competency. We try to train certain particular businesses like gas stations not to become behind the glass shield to resolve conflict because it's dangerous for them and it's also dangerous for the customer. We also do an event we haven't done in a while because of the pandemic, but we do an entrepreneurial workshop as well for people who want to do startup business for minorities. So if you want to get an LLC, or if you want to learn about how to do a partnership agreement, operational agreement, etc., things of that nature, you can do that as well. We do workshops for home tax foreclosure prevention. We're doing that currently right now, where we're helping families prevent them from losing their homes, as well as educate them on the wraparound services as well. So those are some of the initial programs, and then we do a lot of emergency responses as well. So right now we have a campaign called Stop Killing Our Babies campaign. Last year in the city of Detroit, there were 77 babies that were shot, and out of the 77 of them, 9 were killed. No, I'm sorry, 13 of them were killed. So we have a serious issue in that realm. And right now we're doing awareness on that. We're going to have a huge march coming up in August. We're going to be providing conflict resolution resources, and we're going to be working with several different nonprofits, reaching out to all of them across the city for us to come together. So those are just to name a few of one of those some of the programs that we have, and we're continuously working on different things to help our community and serve what their needs are.
I love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that was a good question, Sada. Thank you for asking that. So, what is the main goal of like a nonprofit organization? Like, I know probably everyone has a different goal, but I guess what is like when someone wants to open one up, I guess what is the main goal? And I know it might be simple as just supporting or helping in a situation or helping a certain problem like you mentioned earlier, but I guess go ahead, LaShawn, I'm gonna start off with you on this one. What is the main goal?
So again, like you said, it's going to be based off of what you want to start your nonprofit about. But like I said, I like to go back to it is objective driven. So figure out what the problem is that you want to try to accomplish or solve or find resources to assist with, and then build on those things. Because what we do know is once you start to scratch, it tends to spread. So what started off as like the Entrepreneurial Workshop can eventually become a lot larger to where we're bringing in people who we've helped incorporate their businesses, who we've helped make or get LLC, so they can come back in and talk to more people about how do they start this process. Actually, what we're doing here, so we're starting the information and then we just continue to build on it. So I think that narrowing down and focusing on what you want to address and accomplish, and then building on those things after you have met those objectives. So it's a case-by-case basis depending on what your nonprofit is.
Awesome. How about you, Negus? Do you have anything you want to add to that? Like, I guess people's main goals of a nonprofit organization?
Yeah, I mean, LaShawn pretty much described it pretty well, but I would add on that two things. Number one, you need a mission statement, of course. Your mission statement is essentially going to encompass everything that your organization stands for and is about. So your mission statement, everything that you do revolves around your mission, right? So that is your objective goal. That's what you're passionate about. And of course, when you start a nonprofit, of course, it's safe to say, I'm assuming that whatever your passion is, that's what your nonprofit is going to be about. So whatever your passion is, you find a way to put that in the mission statement. And then the second thing is you want to have a vision statement, right? And your vision statement is what do you see overall the main, how does this nonprofit look in the near future? What does it look like if you are to accomplish all of your goals and you're to get to the apex of what you want to achieve? That's what your vision statement is, right? And one of our visions in our vision statement is that we want to have a community resource center, right? Because in every community there needs to be an institution that has reliable resources to the community. When you go over there in West Chicago, Illinois, where we're at right now, there's really not that many institutions. You have, liquor stores, you have weed dispensaries, you have all these other things, but what resources do people want to go to if they need something for computer literacy? Job resources or job referrals, right? Something that is resourceful to have a better quality of life. We don't have that many communities, institutions in these poverty-restricted neighborhoods. So our vision statement is having a community resource center that teaches, computer literacy, financial literacy, etc., which is in correlation to our actual mission statement. So you have to have those two things intact, and you have to be well thought out. And this is what makes you have to be very objective and scientific when you're talking about a nonprofit. So that's what I love about it, and that's what you should think about when you're starting a nonprofit. And then the last thing is make sure you have people that share your vision and share your dream. I'm so blessed to have people like LaShawn, Jackie, Sam, Minister Freedom, Zuri. We have several people who share the same passion. So because we share the same passion, we're able to get things done and accomplish in a more efficient way rather versus just being myself. That's why the IRS requires you to have at least 3 board members when you're creating a nonprofit, because they know if you're doing it by yourself, you're one man or one woman entity, and it's only so much you can get done by yourself. It takes a collective.
Okay, so I love how you talked a little bit about what you need to start off a nonprofit. So you mentioned a mission statement, a vision statement, 3 board members. What are some other things that someone would need to get ready before they actually, like how do you start one, basically, in like a simple form?
Yeah. So you need to register with your state into a domestic nonprofit. So they have a thing called domestic nonprofits. A lot of people think you just jump in and get a C3 if that's what you want. But you have to actually register with the state as a domestic nonprofit. It's first articles of incorporation, get an EIN, and then once you get that, you can then apply for a 501c3. I can't remember the exact form, but if you look it online, it'll come up, and then that's when it's going to ask for your narrative. How you're going to find it, how you're going to fundraise, how you're going to finance it. You're going to need 3 board members at least, at the bare minimum. And then you're going to actually have I can't even think of it. The laws, the bylaws. You need bylaws. These are all steps that you need, and you can look this information up online as well. But those are the things that you need to have prepared to understand it. And then you need to figure out if you want to do a C3. C3 is charitable, meaning you're strictly everything that you're doing is related to charitable causes. You're not doing it for a profit. Those are usually religion organizations, nonprofits that are grassroots organizations like ourselves. So all of those things are usually C3s are the most common ones. But if you're into politics and you want to lobby, you want to influence, you want to promote grassroots candidates, then you may want to do a C4. That's where you have the social welfare organizations and things of that nature. But if you want to, do business consultation, you're real passionate about helping businesses, you may want to do a 501c6. So when people think of nonprofits, they usually think of a C3, but there's so many different types of tax exempt nonprofits. You just have to look them up and do your research. But C3 is the most common one because it's for charitable purposes of giving. And then lastly, if you're a blessed person that has a lot of money, you may want to be a foundation, right? Private foundations are usually ones who gives money and grants to nonprofit grassroots organizations as well. So those are just a few to name. and those to consider if you want to create a nonprofit. And then lastly, there's different stages. If you do a C3, you can either be you can either apply for the EZ. That's the 501c3 EZ. That's the one where your cap is actually at $55,000. So if you don't think you're a person that's going to have a big budget, you can apply for the 501c3 EZ, which is not long. The 1099 EZ is not that. No, I'm sorry, not 1099, but it's not that long. It's only 2 pages. And it's only about $250. But if you say, hey, I'm going to go over $50,000, I think my cap is going to be anywhere between $100,000 to $200,000. Then you can actually apply for the regular nonprofit, which is long and extensive, and they want you to really have it well thought out, and it's a lot more longer than the EZ. So those, I'm done babbling and running my mouth, but that just gives you some foundation on what direction you need to go if you want to have a nonprofit.
I have another question. I'm sorry. Before we move on, do you run into issues with like finding the finances?
Initially we did, but there's a number of grants out there that you can get, that you can apply for. You just have to do research. You know, the main ones, of course, the most prominent ones is Ford, Kellogg's, Kresge, Skillman, and then there's some nonprofit. Then there's some foundations that are geographically common in your area. So if you're in California, there's some nonprofits who specifically deal with that region. If you're in down south in Atlanta, so you have to just know your terrain and talk to other nonprofits. Usually big nonprofits will know, but also because it's public information, you can go to I think it's On-Site, GuideStar, I think that's the name of it. There's different, you can actually look at who funds them. Usually big nonprofits, they list and they promote their funds. So you can say, oh, okay, but you want to find those nonprofits that are similar to what you're doing. So, because foundations and people who give out grants, they look for people who specifically import what their mission is. So just because you're a nonprofit, not every foundation is going to send over you a grant. It has to be based upon what their passion is. So with that being said, a quick way is to find similar organizations who are doing similar work to you and find out who's funding them. Like, for instance, if you work with the youth and you work with young boys in your mentorship, then you need to look at Skillman, because Skillman, that's particularly their field, right? If you're doing house development and you're doing things about economic development, you may want to look at Ford, because that's what their passion is. So it's understanding what each foundation passion is and if it's aligned with what your mission is.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Very informative.
Very.
I'm sorry, last is you have to have a grassroots fundraising donation campaign. Most of donations come from actually the people. So that's another thing, having dinners and stuff like that. You have to fundraise from the people, but that takes time, and that can take up to like 4 years doing that.
So my question to you is, because this is from what I heard as well, we're going to start dishing out random questions. It ain't going to be the ones that we had ready for y'all. People were saying that, like, you know, opening a nonprofit is not that difficult, but it's like showing, I believe the government, I'm guessing, or the IRS, I don't know who are you showing, but showing them that you are pretty much, I guess, you know, active and are doing stuff, whether it's getting funds or actually showing them that you're doing things, and therefore eventually you can get those big grants. So what does that fall, what does like showing them like actually fall under? Like, what is it, money? Is it like, how, if I were to try to open up a nonprofit, like how am I supposed to show people that maybe are gonna give money? And I know it might not happen immediately, but how do I show them like, yo, this is the work that I'm doing? Like, am I supposed to like keep tabs of it? Am I supposed to like record it? Like, what am I supposed to do?
Do you mean like to your funders and stuff?
Yeah, to the people that I would want to fund. Like, if they want to know, like, hey, what are you doing? Am I going to be like, oh, yeah, by the way, I did this, I did that. And, like, they're going to just believe me, or am I supposed to show them, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, they ask you specific questions that make you show them, okay? So, for instance, all the money that we get, we actually have to, I can actually read you some, actually, because we just talked about this in the meeting, didn't we, LaShawn?
We did.
And I quickly went over it. I think I can find it. Here we go. Yeah. So they're going to ask you questions. They'll ask you questions like an evaluation of the success of your program, describe how your program was implemented, a statement indicating your future plans for the program. So there's plenty of questions they'll ask you specifically to evaluate your thing. They'll ask you, how did you spend your money, right? How many people have you served? Well, let me give you a prime example. Let's say, for instance, that your charitable cause is feeding the people, okay? You like to feed people.
Okay.
And let's assume that you've already been doing it. They may ask you, how often, how many people do you serve per week? Or how many people do you serve per month? How much money do you spend in terms of serving those people? So they ask you specific questions based upon what your whatever your passion is. That's how you show them. So you don't have to vividly show them. Although they may ask, are you in any articles? Send us videos, send us flyers. Those are ways that they look at how you measure your work. And when you are a nonprofit, don't expect to get a big budget. That's not how it works. It's very similar to banks. So for instance, if you just started a nonprofit and they have a grant that's up to $100,000, you should not apply for $100,000 because you don't have an experience of budgeting $100,000 unless you have what they call as a fiduciary. So if you have a fiduciary of an organization who's very prominent, who has millions and millions of dollars in budget, they can vouch for you on your behalf and say, hey, we will accept this $1 million grant on behalf of this organization, and we will make sure that they're physically responsible in terms of making sure that they manage that money in the correct way. But if it's just you and you're new, you need to be applying for $10,000, $20,000, $15,000 and build a resume up. So, because they ask for things of what's your past budget, how much experience do you have, what's your biggest salary that you budget? Because when they give you this money, they want to make sure two things. They want to make sure that you have experience in budgeting this money. Number two, they also want to make sure that you have a sustainability plan. Most foundations do not want to be able. Most foundations do not want to be obligated to have to give grants to you long term. They want you to eventually become economically self-sustainable. So they're going to ask you, what's your self-sustainability plan? How do you plan on becoming self-sustainable if we cannot invest in you in the next 4 years? Because that happens all the time. A foundation may say, we're out of money or we can't fund you, but yet still they want to make sure that the program is sustainable and it's still going on. So basically, they don't want to be your number one funder for 20 years down the line. They want to make sure that you're able to do it at some point in time on your own. So these are the kind of questions that they ask to evaluate whether or not you're active, and also that you're able to accomplish what you say your mission is set out to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, man, yeah, it did, man, it did. And honestly, I hope, people are watching now or eventually watch are taking notes, because there is a lot of information you just gave in the last 15 minutes that can probably start someone in their nonprofit organization. So my question to you is, so let's say there's just a random person that just wants to donate. Is it as simple as, you having an account of the nonprofit? Like, by the way, okay, I got a double question. So basically, like, if a random person wants to donate, can they just donate money to you? And number two is, are you supposed to open up like another account, like a banking account for your nonprofit, or do you have it under your same banking information?
Mm-hmm. So okay, LaShawn, I'm sorry because I'm doing a lot of talking. LaShawn,
yeah,
do you want to answer
that?
So I will answer, how can you donate? So anyone is able to donate. We have Cash App. You can go to the website and it's a link there for you to donate. Another cool way that most people don't realize is there's a process called Amazon Giving. So you can, they'll give a percentage of what you buy or what you spend on Amazon to a nonprofit. You just have to select from the list of nonprofits. Wow. So people have ways of donating and you're not even paying attention because you're buying buying stuff anyway. So those are some of the ways that you can donate. Now, as far as banking information, that's a good question.
Yeah,
so you need to have. You can't use your personal account or any personal account for a nonprofit, because that is a conflict of interest. You need to have an actual nonprofit bank and put the money in there for that. And of course, it can't just be you to have sole access to the bank account. LaShawn has access to one of the nonprofit accounts and several other people as well. That's one. The other thing is, you can donate anonymously all the way, if I want to say, into, like, don't quote me on this, but you're responsible to look up. But I want to say up to $600. After $600, I think the nonprofit, we have to report all our sponsors. Mm-hmm. on a form. I can't think of the form right now, but when you're doing, so that's one of the crucial things of nonprofit as well. If you're over 50,000, you have to detail your donations. If you're under 50,000, they don't care. You can just do what they call an N99. You can do electronically, just your name, submit it, boom, that's it. But if you get a budget that's over 50,000, you have to report a 990 form. And those who have donated over $600, they want their name, their address, organization, etc. If it's like $20, $30, it can be anonymous. It doesn't have to be reported. So those are the things that you need to keep in mind as well when you're taking donations. And be sure always to remind them that this is a tax write-off.
That's great. All right, that's awesome. Did you guys want to add on any questions? Because we got a couple more. Ivy, did you want to ask something?
Just like a comment, as teachers, we always promote the students in helping and servicing the community. So, anytime you guys need any extra hands, let us know. Especially the NHS.
She's like, I got you
will.
guys.
Right, I
We
will.
can make something happen for sure.
No, for sure. And I want my athletes to do some stuff
Yes,
too.
definitely.
Like, I want them to, like, it builds bonds. And I do want them, there was in my head, I remember when they all had the silent lunches, I was like, I should have been proactive and told them, like, hey, if any of my athletes get in trouble, we'll clean, like, around the school and stuff like that, and just clean in the school. Just so, like, we could show them, like, hey, we're trying. But, if there's things that you want, help with, let us know.
Especially because with kids, sometimes they don't even have that opportunity at home with their families. Mm-hmm. And, like, when they start doing it, they'll build that love for it. And it could be something that's long term that they would always, gives them that self, just that self gratitude, basically.
Yeah.
And wanting to give back. So if we build it into them while they're young, they'll continue when they're an adult.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And speaking of kids, we got a couple students saying, nice video, Mr. Thabit and Mr. Thabit. So shout out to the both of you. What advice would you give someone who either wants to open up a nonprofit or support a nonprofit? Like, basically some simple advice. I know I'm going to start calling you Vu too, since LaShawn been calling you Vu. We held you up longer than you probably expected, man, and I apologize, but I really do appreciate you doing this. We're going to try to get everybody out and hopefully no later than 8. So what advice would you give to someone who either wants to open up a nonprofit or support a nonprofit?
I go first?
Yeah, I'm going to start with you. Yep.
I think we gave the advice for the most part in terms of how to start it up. I would say make sure you're passionate about it. Be willing to make sacrifices, and do not do it for money. Okay? I've had people in the past. They've seen some of the successes that TPA was able to accomplish in other nonprofits. They like, I need to. Y'all got a contract. I need to get a nonprofit. No. That's not that shouldn't be the reason that you're opening a nonprofit. If you're opening a nonprofit, it should be strictly because this is something that you're passionate about and that you've already been doing. Okay? I recommend, if you've never ever done it before, you should do it before you start up a nonprofit. I highly even recommend that you join a nonprofit or volunteer for a while and see how it operates. Before you buy a McDonald's enterprise, you should work in a McDonald's so you can know how it operates and you can understand fully how the business works. So with that being said, number one, make sure this is something that you're passionate about and you can do for free. Before I started a nonprofit in 2008, like LaShawn said, she met me back in like 2011 volunteering for free using my own money and my own sweat equity for a nonprofit. I didn't start a nonprofit until almost 10 years later. Do that, volunteer, understand the nonprofit world, and then if you feel the need to open a nonprofit, be sure to have those two things intact. And also, I will speak about emotional intelligence, but I'll be babbling all day, so I'm not going to get into all that aspect of it. But leadership qualities, that's another aspect as well that you definitely want to work on with yourself as well. But that's it.
So I wanted to add a little bit about if you're going to join or start your own nonprofit. So like Vu mentioned, we have the same passion for, we want to see the same changes, but the way that we think about them happening are not the same. So I would suggest getting other leaders or other members that don't necessarily think the same way that you think, because if you all have the same way of thinking, you're likely to miss some things. Because although we work great together, it's no one person above anyone. If I have some ideas or some suggestions, then okay, well, let's figure out how do we do that. If he has some, okay, let's figure out how do we do that, those type of things. And then sometimes we just don't see eye to eye. Well, I don't think that makes sense to do it that way. And then we figure out what's going to be the best collective for the organization. So
I love it.
You don't want
Perspective.
around.
What'd
I'm
you say?
sorry.
What'd you say, Vu? Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, no one, no yes, or people around you. Because, me and LaShawn, we can respectively disagree on some things, but we respect each other. And sometimes she puts me up on stuff and say, hey, I don't think so. I'll be like, it's a good suggestion, and vice versa. So there's a level of respect and understanding. And you don't want nobody to be yes on everything and share everything, because LaShawn sees certain things that I don't see. So, it's a great combination.
And you have different skill sets as well. Like everybody's bringing something to the table. You can have more on the table. So
Absolutely.
Great teamwork.
Yeah, thanks.
Love that.
I love it. And do you have any advice about someone that wants to maybe support or start up a nonprofit organization? Anything you wanted to add on that one?
I actually wanted to make a comment earlier. Then you asked that question. I wanted to say how I agree with working on making sure your mission applies to your work, because that's very, very, very important, especially with the funders under transitional housing. Even with our case management notes, we have to make sure we're assisting and not doing things, actually doing it for them.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Not enabling them. And I think that's very, 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 very important. And I wanted to mention that, and then I forgot, and then I just remembered. So yeah.
No, I think there were some great questions, and also great comments. And before we give out the final words, just a couple things. Number one, I forgot to mention this live. I know I talked about it beforehand. It is International Women's Day. So snapping fingers for all the women in this panel right here. Appreciate y'all being in the building. And the video is going to be 2 parts. It cut off because of the stream. I probably got 50 people on the internet right now, so it was probably slowing down. But it's 2 parts, so I just in case someone maybe just watched the second part, just want to introduce everybody again. So this is Negus Vu. He is the president of the People's Action. He is the one right here on the Zoom call. We have LaShawn Reece, coordinator of what's the specific spot again?
Community Health Awareness Group.
Community Health Awareness Group. Of course, you guys know co-host, my big sis in the building. My little sister's in the building as well. She actually works at Access, which is another nonprofit organization. Today's topic was all about nonprofit organizations. So that's what we were discussing. Just in case you watch part 2 of the video and you're just trying to jump in and figure out what it is we're talking about. It is about nonprofit organizations.
I had a question.
Yes.
Sorry. Did you guys have to go to? I'm trying to look at both of you guys. Did you guys have to get degrees for where you're working right now, or is it just by the volunteering and the experience?
So what's so interesting about me? So my degree is in business administration, concentration of management, right? So I end up being a social worker by default. So I pretty much just worked my way up.
Yeah.
But what's so great about it is I have the skill set of the social worker with the business background.
Love it.
So it helps me in multiple ways. So, yeah.
Awesome. How about
Keeps
you?
it running.
No, I was gonna say, you look like me. I'm talking naked. Mr. Vu, how about you? Hey, Mr. Vu, how about you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I feel rude because I keep on looking at the TV.
Oh, so I heard some of the question. I couldn't hear it clearly. I heard LaShawn clearly, her answer. I kind of think what she was asking. Can you repeat the question one more time?
Did you need a degree to open up this nonprofit
Or to even
or be where you're at right now?
No. I mean, even though my background is science, I went to school to actually be a physician. So my background is based upon medical, which has nothing to do with what I'm doing, but it did teach me to be very analytical and scientific. So I apply that to organizing. But no, you don't need any degree to start a nonprofit. Well, I would say at least in the grassroots area, as far as a C3, it may be good to have certain degrees depending on what you want to do. If it's medical based, it probably would be good to have some level of licenses, etc. But no, generally you don't need to have any degree to start a nonprofit. It's just sometimes it can be good depending on what field that you're in as far as a nonprofit.
Awesome. So with that said, believe it or not, we have reached a point where now it's time for the final word. Any final word? We're gonna let you go. So Negus Vu, we're gonna let you go first so that we don't hold you up. Any final word you want to mention out there for people and just in general?
Well, first I want to thank y'all for having me on the show with Comrade LaShawn. It's been very, I really enjoyed this, the topics and the questions that were asked, so I appreciate that. And then just to everybody, man, just, make sure that I hope you took heed to some of the things that we were suggesting. And don't be intimidated. If this is something that you're passionate about, you really want to do, go for it. It'll come easy. Just make sure you volunteer, get your experience in before you jump out there and create your own nonprofit. And sometimes you may not want to create your own nonprofit because you may find a nonprofit that's suitable for you where you can be effective and work your ranks and you can bypass all the other things that you have to do. Because starting up your nonprofit, it can be challenging, it can take time. So if you can find an organization that's already in line with what you're doing, it's nothing wrong with joining it. But if you don't, create one and go from there. Good luck.
There you go, Negus Vu. We appreciate you, man. Thank you again for coming on. We really do appreciate it. Very, very, very informative conversation, man. And thank you again for helping people eventually or hopefully. So we appreciate it. And if you want to sign off, you're more than welcome to sign off. Like I said, I know you were supposed to only be here for a half hour, but we had you here for an hour, man. So thank you, man.
All right, thank you. I got to get to the babies. Thank you so much. I'm out of here, but I appreciate you.
Take it easy, man.
Thank y'all.
All right. Bye. So I'm going to go ahead and shut that then right there so they don't see that. So, LaShawn, I'm going to ask you the same question, basically. Any final word, final comments you want to mention about everything that we talked about?
So again, I want to say thank you for allowing us to have the opportunity to speak about nonprofits because they are so very important. It's a space where I'm going to speak a little bit more about Community Health Awareness Group. Like I said, I've been there since I was 18. Or not since I was 18, excuse me. I'm 40. I've been there 18 years. So I have literally grown up in this place, right? So I really couldn't see myself at a for-profit being able to challenge myself the way that I have been. And again, you asked about degrees, right? So I've done social work. So I've gone to school. I've taken the classes. I've been a social work tech. But in a for-profit situation, I may not have been able to grow in the way that I have at a nonprofit. We literally have become family. They've watched my son grow up, those type of things. We can help each other out at the drop of a dime. So I do love that aspect of a nonprofit. And we have so many other different programs going on to where you always feel like you can be challenged, you can fulfill yourself, those type of things. Now, if you don't want to work at a nonprofit, but you want to possibly go into volunteering, which is what I started with Negus Vu. Like I said, we both started with giving our own money, buying book bags, that type of thing. I didn't know that I would gel and have a relationship to where I would become on the board of directors for the People's Action and help writing the bylaws and figuring out how do we continue to pour into the community. So start off by volunteering, figure out what aligns with you, and then build from there.
I love that.
I do. I really do. And writing the bylaws, can you give me an example of what that might be like or sound like or look like?
So it's pretty much like your article. So they'll tell you, so how do you, you have to come up with, you have your president, your vice president. What are some of the other titles that you may have? Who does what jobs need to, who's responsible for which task, that type of thing. When do reports get submitted? What are you reporting on? What type of jobs or what type of programs will you have? So those type of things. Because when you move on, what you would like to do is be able to see someone else come in and follow those same bylaws and those same rules so that it can be an ongoing process.
Makes sense. Abir?
I want to say that wealth does not diminish by giving charity. People think, oh, I don't have it or whatever. Believe me, it doubles, literally. And then also, if you don't have
I just seen that same quote on global charity teams. Did you just see that?
Anyways,
I just see that same quote. I'm like, man, I just heard that quote.
Wait, are you being serious?
You can't go broke when you're helping out.
Right.
Definitely. So That's number one. Number two, if you don't, sweat equity.
I love that. That's the word of the day.
That's the word of the day.
I'm probably gonna use it as a clip too.
Use it.
I hope so. That's the
manpower. You know, the idea when you want to say, okay, I'm going to feed the community. You need people to, deliver the food. You need people to package the food. You need people to collect the food. There's so much that
giving your time is very important.
Yeah,
it is.
I just heard that same quote today. Too.
It's a very good quote. Like it's true.
Yeah.
Like in our religion, when we give, it's like our bank account in heaven. You know what I mean? So it doesn't go to waste. Like when you help, God helps you.
I believe that. I believe that community service is the cost that you pay to be here. So you want to be happy.
Love that
continue
too.
to pour into your neighborhood.
Did you see that quote too? I'm like,
right. You saw that one. You saw that one. So yeah. So that's what I tell Jake. I'm like, your rent for being here is your community work.
yes.
You cannot just be here. You cannot. So.
No, I agree with that 100%. I think that's important, and I think that you feel amazing too when you help people. Like that's what they say. Like one of the cures to if you're depressed or sad is helping people, and it just it does
feeling.
It does something to you for you that nothing else compares to, and it does not have to mean giving money either.
Right.
Like you said, sweat equity, putting that time in, and just helping someone, and them being grateful for it, and it goes a long way. It goes a long way, and hopefully
Very rewarding.
Yeah, and it has a ripple effect. So, we didn't let you close out anything. Did you want to say anything to close out the show?
Support your local non-profits in any way possible.
Yep, and they gave us plenty of ways of how
Yes.
you can help and support, either sharing, obviously monetary donations, and obviously also that sweat equity part as well. So with that said, again, this is another episode on Oz Media. This is episode 27 of the Table Talk podcast. We usually go live on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. Thank you to LaShawn. Thank you to Negus Vu as well. They were in the building. We talked about nonprofit organizations. You can watch this show on YouTube. It might be 2 videos. I apologize. I knew that there was too much going on, and I was almost going to tell you guys to maybe not be on the internet, but it is what it is. There's, the first part is before this, and the second part is here. And then you can listen to the show on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. And LaShawn, thank you again. This probably won't be the last time we have you on. I try to get your sister on, LaToya.
Good luck.
Listen, it's crazy when you're talking. I'm like, I hear Reece. Like, it's so Just I don't know. It's so weird.
I told you. I looked at you today. And I'm like, have I seen you before? And I know Miss Reece as well. Like, you know what I mean? Your presence was like, I've met you before.
Yeah, it's probably a hindrance. She knows that I do all of the talking, so she doesn't have to talk when I'm around. So
honestly, I wish we could have her on too, because we could do we're all siblings now. You know what I'm saying? We have like a sibling conversation and just make it funny too. Like, what's the worst thing that your sibling does? What used to annoy you? Blah blah blah.
Wait, are you older or younger?
I'm older.
Okay.
I'm 2 years older.
So we'll have LaToya on this end.
Yeah, we'll have LaToya and Sarah. I've been little Sean.
Let's go.
Oh, we can have a sibling gaming.
Yeah.
Man, we gotta get LaToya on.
Right, look.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
All right, let's go.
Fingers crossed.
Well, for those that are watching, nice job, Miss Dabbit, my sister said, because people are giving Mr. Dabbit the shout outs and not Miss Dabbit.
That's hilarious. You know what's crazy? The kindergartners call me Mr. Dabbit, and I'm like, no, it's not the same. It's not one name. Mr. is for a man. Miss is for a woman.
Yep. Well, there you go. We even gave you guys a lesson on how. I forgot what's the wording on those things called? The titles. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Is it really just titles?
Mr. and Mrs.?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
There you go.
We asking about Reece.
Right. See? You're missing the other Reece.
Well, thank you all for watching. We really do appreciate it. I hope you learned something eventually, and we'll see you all next week, Tuesday. Have a great rest of